All right. Hello, hello. Welcome, welcome. My name is Joey. I am the fire social worker. I'm a certified financial social worker, and this is the Fire Social Worker Show. So I put this together. This is kind of an evolving project, but this is something that I'm very passionate about. For those of you who don't know me, I'm an Air Force veteran. I paid off $20,000 worth of debt in the Air Force as an E3, and then I kind of got on this passionate journey of personal finance, and now I'm a social worker and now certified financial social worker, and I'm just passionate about helping people with their finances, and just excited to be here to be streaming with you guys. So this fire boot camp project was something that I just kind of put together. I just had an idea that it would be kind of fun and different to do a kind of like a financial transformation makeover show, and so I found a willing participant. His name is Reid Quatez, and he is an Army recruiter, active duty, out of Erie, Pennsylvania. And so he's going to be joining the stream here in a little bit. And we've been working with him on his finances the last couple of sessions. So we got a little bit of a backstory going on. So if you're just jumping in, you can check out our previous episodes and see where he started and where we're gonna hopefully eventually end up. So just for a little bit of programming information, we do have a few changes coming up on the horizon. So this show, the Fire Social Worker Show, has been kind of unpredictable. It's really hasn't been a very strategic thing. But so basically, what I'm trying to do is I have my MBR show, Money in the Military, and basically what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to combine my fire social worker show with my Money in the Military time block. So Thursdays from 7 to 9 on MBR. So that's where I'm going to be doing my shows. So I'm going to start with the Fire Social Worker Show. We're going to talk about financial social work. We're going to talk about, all kinds of different things with related to personal finance in that show. And then starting in the next hour would be the Money in the Military Show, where we're going to talk about, obviously money that's related to the military. And so that's kind of the idea. We're going to try it out, see how it goes. So that will be under the MBR platform. And yeah, just excited about trying something different. And speaking of MBR, we're also excited to announce that we're going to be launching on Roku TV. So this is all very fresh, very new. But essentially, we have 30 shows on our platform, and we're going to be integrating with the Roku TV app. So if you have a Roku TV or a Roku box or streaming thing, then you can start to watch MBR content very soon. So look forward to that. That's pretty exciting. We're also doing a fundraising campaign for MBR. It's a nonprofit, something that we're all very passionate about. But we're going to be hopefully, getting some regular recurring donations. We really are going to be relying on some of those. So if you're watching MBR, Military Broadcast Radio, please consider donating and on a recurring basis, because that would really help us out a lot. So the other things we got on the horizon is next week I'll be interviewing Eddie Garcia, a veteran from EVG Financial Solutions. We're going to talk to him about his military journey. And then on the 1st of April, excited to have Deanna Charette. I hope I'm saying that right. She's a Air Force veteran turned actress turned production company owner. So she owns a nonprofit production company based out of Louisiana, and she's going to. Their whole mission is to hire veterans to become a film production studio. So it's a really cool project. I'm really excited about it. And so August 1st, that's going to be part of the Money in the Military show. And yeah, so that's all the announcements that I have. If there's anything I think of later, we'll talk about it. But yeah, so that's all the programming notes for today. And without further ado, we're gonna reintroduce Reid into the stream. and bring him on the stage. All right, Reid, here we go. How's it going, man?
Hey, I'm good.
That's good, good. It's awfully quiet over there. No little ones around. Or are they already in bed?
My wife, she had a vacation. She took him to Fort Campbell
Fort Campbell.
to
Okay,
meet with a friend. So
nice. Okay, so you're rocking it solo right now. Huh? You probably don't know what to do with yourself a little bit, huh?
yeah, for the first 3 days, it's just like I've been going to bed at like 1 a.m.
Getting caught up on some streaming video games. What you been catching up on?
I um I just wanted to start watching stuff on Disney Plus. Like I wanted to see Star Wars Obi-Wan. Um,
Okay, nice.
not I'm not sure if I like it or not.
Yeah, yeah. I'm really far behind on all of the Star Wars stuff, but Disney Plus has really gotten. There's so much content on there. It's almost crazy now. But
Yeah.
well, that's good. So let's jump into a little bit of the financial check-in. So after the last episode, we kind of calculated your net worth. We talked about setting up a little bit more aggressive savings goal. It was going to be 125 a paycheck, and then we also were going to bump up your car payment to 200 a paycheck. So did you end up making any of those changes, or what's the status on that?
So I definitely forgot about the bump up the car payment.
Okay.
Um, I remember last time I talked about how I was gonna find out why the Department of Education has been sending me stuff.
Yeah.
So I was literally like, while I was backstage, I was literally doing freeannualcreditreport.com and I
Mm-hmm.
ran my own credit. I have no open debts with them at all. So I'm
Nice.
not sure why they were contacting me because it says paid and closed. So
Yeah. Yeah. That's still pretty weird. I don't. I still wanted to look into that a little bit and find out more information. I just never got around to checking on into that. But um, so okay. So I guess that's your homework is now going to be trying to bump up that car payment, and then hopefully soon, and then so did you increase your savings goal or your savings rate?
the funny thing about that, remember how we were saying that like we use the app will be the savings that we're just gonna put away.
Yeah.
So because they're a bond company, like it's worthy bonds, occasionally they have to when they hit like a certain milestone, they have to report to the SEC so they can kind of get like a whole new batch of bonds.
Okay.
So they've halted like any more like putting any more money in there. So it's just accruing interest.
Hmm.
But you can't actually do anything until like they offer um
I gotcha.
their next round of bonds. Like the last
Yeah.
time this happened was 2020 because
Okay.
everybody jumped onto the app and then
Yeah.
like they sold out super fast every time, but it's been
Hmm.
pretty steady since 2022. So, yeah, it's
Okay.
the first time in a couple of years that they actually had to go back to the SEC.
Wow. Okay. So basically you're kind of stuck. You can't add any money to that account, right?
Yeah,
For now. Okay. Well, do you have any other high interest like savings vehicles that you could park that money in for the time being?
I don't. That was the only one besides using the app self, but that's not really high interest. That's more like putting your money away and then they just write you a check back after you put your money away.
Oh, okay. All right. So yeah, I guess the other alternative would be to open up like an online only high yield savings account with like usually. I mean, I haven't been up to date on what the most. You can go to bankrate.com and they'll probably spit out like the highest interest account. So a lot of people recommend somebody like Ally, but there's tons of high interest accounts that you could start putting money into. So But I mean, you also mentioned that you have other little accounts that you use, right? Or that you have
Mhm.
like little pockets of money. So is there any other savings type account that you could just put that money in for the time being?
I had Capital, but
Hmm.
and I had Acorns Roundup, and I have a checking account with Acorns.
Hmm.
I don't remember how I got it or why, but oh yeah. So when you when you sell your stocks on Acorns, they need somewhere to put the money.
Right.
So
Okay.
I
Yeah.
had $11,000 at one point that I sold in stocks, and they had to make it. You have to make a checking account, and then they hold that money there so you can do something with it.
Yeah.
So I'm just would put in only like $35 a month there, plus what they're putting in the stocks and stuff. I'm back at about $1,000,
Okay.
which is not bad because I sold like I made that 11,000 over the course of like from 2018 to 2020.
Okay. Nice. Well, yeah, I mean, I guess the vehicle that you put the money in isn't necessarily as important as the habit that you're forming, So I want to encourage you to at least park the money somewhere, which I mean, like, you were putting $80 a month or something like that, $40 a paycheck or something like that prior to this.
Yeah,
Okay. So yeah, I would just encourage you to put that 125 somewhere for now, somewhere separate. That way it's not touching your bank account, and it's still going towards that $10,000 transition fund goal. Um, and like a lot of people get into the weeds with like, oh well, this bank has 4.2% and this bank has 4.8%. Like, that's kind of splitting hairs at that point. So I would just say, start the habit, create the habit, make it automatic, and then your future self will thank you kindly.
yeah. I wish
um,
that like I would have thought about my future self when I was 18
oh
and
yeah, yeah,
going in the
no,
army.
I mean, that's the tricky part, especially about finances, because you're dealing with your present self. You're dealing with, okay, I got to deal with buying gas and doing all the day to day stuff, but then sometimes you're also dealing with your past self. So your past self, when it comes to credit, which you don't have to worry about as much because you don't have any credit, but like, me, I'm dealing with my past self's decisions to buy things on credit, and I'm still paying those. But then future self, and this is where like I'm trying to get people to really start thinking about their future self, because your future self is reliant on your present self right now. So what you're doing in the present is going to help your future self. And a lot of times people are, like I said, they're focused on the present and maybe the near future, but like not the long-term future. But the funny thing is that it really takes that long term perspective to really make money and grow your money because of compound interest and just automatic growth and things like that. So it's one of those things where, yeah, if you do it right, you're gonna thank your present self. You'll thank your past, you'll be thanking yourself, basically, is the key point. Like you said, 18-year-old self, but like, let's be honest, 18-year-old self is not thinking about 40-year-old self, or
No,
whatever age you might be. You're just not thinking about that necessarily. But it is a tricky balance, because when you're 18, you also have different priorities. You have a different, you might be thinking in the next 6 months. That's your timeline where you're thinking about. Whereas in when you get older, you start thinking, okay, man, I got to be prepared for the long game, and it's a cycle that changes over time. Um, but as you said, now you wish 18-year-old self would have done things. Well, now you're looking at, you know, 60-year-old self is going to be looking at you right now and saying, okay, what did you do right now to change your future trajectory? So that's where I'm gonna really, really try to encourage you to think that long-term plan, that long-term focus, because that's when you really start to grow assets and your net worth and everything over time. So So with that kind of mindset, when we've talked about your transition fund, and we talked about maybe doing the homesteading thing, but uh, like what are some of the long term? You mentioned also traveling. So what are some of the like concrete long term goals that you've kind of maybe thought about in the past, or you're talking about with your wife? Like what are some concrete financial goals that you guys have come up with?
Um, I would say our most concrete goal was being debt free. Like that was what, that was what we wanted, like more than anything.
Yeah.
Um, my wife's car is gonna be paid off probably within the next year.
Yeah.
Because I think last time the last update was I sold my land that I had, and then I
Yeah.
used that money to because when you sell it, they take the money that you owe on the land, put that towards it, and then they cut you whatever the check is for
Hmm.
whatever's left. So we
Yeah.
use that, put all of that towards her car, so the car will be paid off literally next year.
Yeah.
Especially if we bump it up to the 200 payment. Right now, it's it was 100 and I believe $180
Okay.
every paycheck.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and then I think we talked about it before. Once you pay that off, that's going to be $400 a month that you're going to have. Okay, and then let's play out that scenario. In 8 or 9 months, you're going to have $400 to play with. What do you want to do with that $400 a month, or what are you hoping to do with that?
So ideally, I'd like to find a campaign manager for my comics.
Okay.
Like you said, that's a good viable income, and
Yeah.
I was on Instagram today and I noticed that Ronda Rousey is now getting into the comic book game. So that's bringing
Oh,
more exposure for, regular people to, with
yeah.
disposable income to start throwing their money at comics.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So if she's jumping into it and then you've got all these, it's like now people are seeing that comics can be a viable source of income. Everyone's
Yeah.
throwing their hat in the thing. So
Okay.
um, I don't like the business aspect of making comics. I prefer to just, do it
Right.
because I like to, but I'm sitting
Yeah.
on something that I paid nearly 10,000 or
Mm.
$11,000 for. So
Wow.
I can probably recoup some of those losses.
Yeah, I hope so. Um, so yeah, with that kind of, we have talked about the side hustle of the comic, and I actually do. I'm gonna reach out to an old friend of mine who is a graphic designer, graphic artist, based out of Denver. And I'm just curious to kind of get pick his brain a little bit. Maybe I can connect you guys, and I don't know if he's actually published any graphic novels or anything like that, but he's a really talented artist. So I'm gonna reach out to him and just see if maybe he could point us in the right direction. Like, okay, So I guess my question then would be, um, what is your biggest barrier to launching the graphic novel?
I just don't have the time myself. I mean,
Okay.
there's different avenues you can go down. Like you have, if you do Kickstarter, you start the campaign, but then you have to start your marketing trail, and then you have to have a realistic goal of how much you want to make in mind. But you have to have a quote first from the printers who will print the stuff, which means you have to know if you're going to do full color or you're going to know if you're going to do
Mhm.
black and white or some kind of hybrid. And then you have to know how many pages you're going to do, what type of
Mhm.
paper you're actually going to use. Um,
Wow.
it's a lot of things that go into
It
printing a
is.
comic, and then
Yeah.
what's a price point that's actually good enough for you to somewhat make money, and for you to get, because what I do is I always pay out of my own pocket for the artists and everything, but a lot of those campaigns they end up they pay an artist to make first 5 pages like a preview, and then they
Yeah.
try to start it from there. They try to get fully funded, but me, I fully fund everything out of my own pocket. And then I would like to put up the finished product. So I have like 4 finished products,
Wow.
but no actual like campaigns to actually sell them.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But ideally, I would like somebody else to run the campaign stuff because I don't really have the time to sit there and collect email addresses and addresses and
Yeah.
plug them in and have a backstock for people who get them damaged in the mail and all that stuff.
So is this like a hardcover graphic novel, or just you said a comic book? So
It's
which
it would be a hardcover or a paperback, but
okay.
because it's not a floppy, so floppies are like 22 pages and less like that. But I have about like 60 or 70, so
Wow. That's impressive. That's like you said, that's where the money, like you mentioned in the previous episode, like it's cost per page. There's, artists you're paying artists. So you're very much invested in this, right? And this is obviously, it sounds like a passion project for you. So um okay. So as far as the business side of things, like if you have you already talked to publishers and things like that, or like when it comes to the rollout, or like you said you're saying campaign, but like that's like a marketing campaign, or
so that's your Kickstarter, and you can set it up for however many, whether it's 30 days, 60 days, 90. But they even recommend don't go past like 60, because if you go past 60, your odds of meeting your goals, they go down the more time that people have. So you have to make it
really?
exclusive enough. So
Yeah.
usually people do 30-day campaigns because it's quick enough for people to be like, oh man, I forgot that I got to go
Hmm.
back this comic. And
Yeah.
so when it's fully funded and you meet the goal, that's when they collect the money, when you tell them, okay, we're going to ship on this day. So, a lot of people get in trouble on Kickstarter because they end up doing Ponzi schemes where they put up a product and,
Uh-huh.
you know, they'll be like, hey, this will be available, let's say February 2025. So once it meets the goals, because everybody's like, wow, I love the artist and the writer team, I really want this. So they'll back it. It'll get to like $10,000, $11,000 in sales.
Hmm.
And then the artist or the writer or whoever put up the campaign just goes radio silent. They just disappear with people's money. And
Oh
then the
wow.
book is like, 2 years late, 3 years late. And then they're
Mm.
finally like, hey guys, we finally, got things worked out. But by that time, people have paid you so much money, they don't
Yeah.
trust what you say anymore. So
Right. But you've already got 4 finished products. So I guess
Mhm.
my thing is, do you even need Kickstarter at this point to launch?
Yes, because it shows that there's a market there for you. Like,
Okay.
because those people who back you, they really want your stuff. And you could set it at whatever you want. Like if I say I only want, my goal is $100, you know, like
Mhm.
realistically that's silly, but anything over $100 would be, um it would be profit, but it's not really profit. um I would just like to cover the cost of printing, because that's really where your most of your money comes from. Like I need to know how many books I need to print, because you
Mhm.
have to do the print order before, like you need to tell the printers like, hey, I need like 150,
Right.
because you
And you
don't
got it.
really know how many people are going to actually stumble across your stuff.
Right. Yeah. So that's where the Kickstarter comes in, because you can kind of gauge interest on like how many you actually want or need to print.
Hmm.
And then if you need to go print more, you go back to the print shop and say, okay, I want to do 50 more or whatever. Okay.
Yep, because
All
they
right.
already have the files. So then you can, after that, because the book's already created, once you make your second book, then you can use as an add-on, so you can generate income in perpetuity from there.
Okay. Nice. So, and I don't know, this is just me speaking out of turn a little bit maybe, but like what about digital options? Is the digital comic industry even I mean, I know there's digital comics and there's
Mhm.
like the whole digital backup of like the catalogs and whatnot, but like is that an option for like another release?
Yes, so on Kickstarter, you're encouraged to do both digital and traditional. So you can't just be like, "Oh, you guys are funding my digital my
Oh
digital
yeah.
comic for you guys," because they're
Right.
like, "Nope, you need something to give them." So a poster or a t-shirt or something. Like if you were going to do digital only, they have to get a physical thing in their hand.
Okay.
So,
Interesting.
so like I tried it. Like I literally tried to do digital only. It would not let me. So
Huh.
I have to offer you a digital version of the book. So usually that's what most people do is they just sell it for like $10, the digital version, but the
Yeah.
print version is usually like 25 to 35 bucks. And people are okay with paying that because they know number one, this is not a Marvel comic book. Like it's not going to be 2.99 because we don't own the printing press. Like we don't
Right.
own the in-house talent to do all that stuff. So they're okay with paying it as long as one, it's something they're interested in, and two, it's you know, you communicate directly with them a lot.
Okay. Man, I'm learning so much about the comic book publishing industry. It's really interesting to me. Um, so you mentioned we initially talked about the $400 a month that you'd be freed up. So how would you put that $400 towards that project? I guess is what I'm curious about.
Okay. So ideally, I would like to find a good Kickstarter manager or like a project manager who
Mm,
will be like very transparent and open with the public about, hey, this is what the process is. This is where we're at right now. We're gonna ship it from this location, or we're starting shipping soon, or that sort of thing. Like
mm-hmm.
I could do it, but it's so time consuming that
Right.
I don't want to break the trust of like the people who back things and stuff. Like I have a
Mm,
page that's pre-built, but like I said, it's so time consuming trying to get everything down. I would rather use somebody who knows what they're
yeah.
doing and then ask them questions like after I pay them. That way, they're on the payroll. They have they have a little bit more incentive to tell me things
Right.
instead of me trying
Yeah.
to figure it out and fail.
Okay.
So
So do you have
ideally,
you?
I'd want to pay them like about $1,000 to manage that one campaign, and then if they're
Okay.
good at it, then they can, we keep making more money because people will see our quality. Then I'll just bump them up. So
Yeah. So, when it comes to making money, like if you're paying the $1,000 for the campaign manager, um, have you estimated like how much you would actually make off of like a first run of prints?
um, so my record keeping is atrocious. Because really, really, I started making comics in like right during COVID, and I really
Uh-huh.
just wanted to do it just to see if I could do it. So I
Okay.
was just spending the money just to get something made, and then once I got it made, I was like, "Wow, I can do this."
Yeah.
But I wasn't keeping track. Like my first book it was a bad experience. Like it was a good
Mhm.
experience and a bad
Yeah.
one because I found an
Yeah.
artist who didn't have a flat rate. He like
Okay.
if the scene that you explained or had in your script was very hard to draw, he would charge you more money. So
Oh, wow.
so if it's just people standing around, it would be $35 a page. If it's punching and kicking and all that stuff, then it's gonna
Mhm.
be $85 or maybe
Wow.
65. Like it never was like a
Uh,
flat fee. So it was like, oh come on, man. So like I don't even know how much I was actually like paying out for the first book.
yeah.
And then the art style was very inconsistent page to page.
Mm.
Because like I was just like, I'm just trying to get this book. Like I just want this book to be created. Um,
Yeah.
but I learned a lot. Like number one, only use flat rate. Number two, um, make sure that the artist stays consistent. Like I stay on my artists all the time unless I trust them. But I usually stay on them like, no, this is trash. You can do better than that. Fix this or you know. But
Yeah.
he was not like wanting to hear what not like was trying to tell him, hey, could you fix this? Like he'd be like,
Yeah.
no, I don't understand what you're saying. So like we would butt heads a lot on what the artistic direction was, and I ended up giving him more money than than I
Yeah.
thought that he should have had for the project. So,
Okay.
but
So
now
that
what
would
I
be
have now is I have a stable team of people I frequently collaborate with.
nice.
So, I bump them up. Like I give them raises when they do good, and like I keep them employed so they're willing to work with me because I keep feeding them so they can keep feeding me if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that's I mean that's part of building a business, like people trust you, they, you trust them, and then there's like a a working relationship there. So um Well, it sounds like you've learned some lessons along the way, and you're still, you're in the game. You're invested. You said you put almost 10K into this, and then I guess the $400 a month, when that does free up. Um, so I guess, yeah, you're gonna you save up maybe a couple of months to try to pay for a campaign manager, spend $1,000, whatever, and then really launch, uh, like what the first product, or like all the products, or how would that work?
So I'll launch the first product, and then based on how many, like I'm anticipating to just order like 100 books just to be safe. I talked to
Yeah,
my friends who already crowdfunded because we all support each other. So when they put something up, it'll be like, hey, there's a new campaign going on from someone you previously backed. So then I'll be like, oh, back it. Then I'll go tell them, hey man, I just someone just trashed something outside. But I'll go tell them like, hey man, I just backed your new book, and they're like, oh sweet, thanks. And then then I become like a publicity guy for them, and
nice.
then they do the same thing because we all support each other because we're all independent. And we all built this little network, and that's ideally what I'm trying to do. Is I'll start with one, do 100, 100, I'll sign them. That way it makes it even more authentic. um And
Yeah.
then once that run is over, I can do an in demand. So I can basically say, okay, we've exceeded our goals. The first run of 100 is going out. Now get it while you can. In demand just means you're going to run the campaign after you've already made the money. You'll run the campaign for like indefinitely until like, you reach another sales goal. Then you can start doing stuff like, here's a trading card that we have original art from some artist that doesn't work on the book, but we made so much money we could hire professional artists, or like some kind of different incentive to get people to spend more money.
Yeah, I like that. Well, it sounds like you're building a like a coalition of other artists. You're supporting each other. It sounds really cool. And honestly, like, yeah, like, so are these other military members, or they're just random people that you've connected with?
There's just random people I connected with.
Okay. Yeah.
Like there's all sorts of communities you can just go find an artist and say, hey man, you want to make like $700? Or really, that's not how I
Yeah.
go into it, but I'm just saying
Right.
you
Yeah.
could do that.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
imagine it like a scene from Star Wars where you're looking for a bounty hunter or something. You walk into a bar and you see a guy with a gun, and you're like, hey, well, let me see your skills.
Mm.
But essentially, like how I did it was I used Reddit, and then there's a whole community called Comic Art Collaboration, and
Okay.
you go for looking for what you're doing. Like artists will be like, hey, I'm looking for a writer to collaborate with, or you're a writer that'll say, hey, I'm looking for an artist to um draw this story. This is what the story is about. And you get some crazy stuff in there sometimes you get
Mhm.
like a struggle artist that's like, you know they're like, oh, I'm very good at this, and then you're like, no, your art style is not what I'm looking
Yeah.
for.
Right.
Or what I do, because I don't advertise what I'm looking for, because that's how you get scammed. Because
Mm.
my second comic that I made, which is, I got scammed out of like $1,700 that I had been
Ooh.
saving specifically to make comics with.
Yeah.
The artist was so good. He was very good and he was very quick. And
Yeah.
but then he just stopped. And then he was like, "Oh, I got COVID." So then I
Uh,
was like, okay, well, he was like, well, my wife and kids, I can't work because I have COVID. Can you give me a donation? I'm like, okay, you know, I give you this
mm.
donation. And then he's like, okay, well, if you front me the rest of the payment, then, I can work on the book without having to worry about if my wife and kid can, eat or not. And he really did
Uh,
have a wife and he really did have a
yeah.
son. So you feel that way because, you're a
Yeah.
parent too. So you're like, man, if I got sick and I couldn't work, then yeah. So,
Yeah.
but then he kept having more excuses every time I would check in, like, hey, I just want to see, like, how far you got because I paid you up to the end of the book. And he's like, oh, well, my friend, we share an art account and he stole the money out of there. And he
Oh
said
my
that,
gosh.
I'm like, it was just one excuse after the next, after the
Yeah.
next. And to this day, he still has not like produced a single thing besides character illustrations.
Wow.
So I I didn't fire him. I just cut sling load with him because somebody aired him out in the same community, the comic art collaboration. Like they were like, he changes his name like every so often. He comes back in here trying to scam people for money. He'll say his
Wow.
son is sick or his wife is like, it was literally like 6 other people he did this to.
Wow.
And so
Man.
like he's already got a bad reputation in that community because, his art style is so good and it's so unique, but he just doesn't put in the work. So like now he's
Wow.
just blacklisted from the community.
Wow. That's crazy.
But that going through that, it showed me that like, okay, I need to be more selective in my vetting process and I need
Yeah.
to lay out more terms of the deal. So what ended up happening was I found another artist, and he's in the Philippines too. Both of them were in the Philippines, but
Hmm.
he was good, but he wasn't as good of an artist. So
Yeah.
what I did was I purposely tried to break him and remake him better so that he could do what I needed him to do. And he's the
Yeah.
artist that I go to for everything. If you check my Instagram, like it'll always have his name, like art by Archie. And
Nice.
literally, like I literally like forced him to get better.
Hmm.
And
Yeah. You pushed him.
his page rate was $35 a page when I first met him. And then as he got better, I started bumping him up to a higher tier. So now I give him $50 a page because I know he's proven now.
Yeah. That's awesome. Man. So yeah, so we got, you got the products, you've got you've got the investment. Um so is this you know this side hustle, I mean, it almost sounds like a passion project for you. Um if you had, all the money in the world, what would you be doing with this project? How big would you make it?
Um, so there's a YouTuber. His name is Young Ripper 59 or Eric D. July as his real name. And
Yeah.
for years he had been telling people because he was just reviewing comics for years and years and years. That's how he built his following. And then
Hmm.
he had told people, he was like, look, I'm not gonna lie to y'all. I'm working on my own comic. I'm doing my own studio. I got my own stuff going on. And when you guys get it, you're gonna flip.
Yeah.
And so like last year, he launched the first campaign. He made $1.8 million like in
Wow.
less than 30 days. His second campaign, he did close to $3 million in sales. So it's just that anticipation, and then he used that money to roll it into getting more artists, hiring professional writers from that actually worked at Marvel and stuff, and
Wow.
built a whole distribution studio and everything. So he's going outside of Kickstarter and stuff because he keeps all of his proceeds and he just hires
Okay.
people who will actually pick the comics off the shelf. And like he's got a whole operation going, like,
Wow.
in Texas. So ideally, that's what I would like to do. I would like to literally have a team like of dedicated artists, dedicated like letterers and everything that we would just scale up. Like we would be able to, like, hey, oh, somebody just placed an order. Well, let's pick it off the shelf. Let's get it mailed out to them ASAP. Like I would like to do comics full time if it was a thing, and then do like other stuff. Like because it's a feast or famine thing. Someone's
Yeah.
paying for your brain, but
Right.
I would if I could just like make comics and still like do what I would like to do to bring in big income. Like if I was an
Hmm.
IT professional, but I did comics on the side, like it
Yeah.
still could be lucrative, but I would still have something else, so it's not feast or
Yeah.
famine.
Yeah, yeah, and then that's kind of like the entrepreneurial challenge of like, do you bootstrap? You pay. You have your regular W-2 job, that's your 9 to 5, and then you have your passion project on the side. That's what some people do. Um, but yeah, it sounds like ideally, you would want your own studio or your own company. It sounds
Mhm.
like, yeah.
I just don't want to run it. That's the thing.
Oh, okay, all right, that's
Like,
fair.
even though
That's
I'm
fair.
doing this business degree, I personally don't like the business aspect because I when you have to do something that you love to make money,
Yeah.
Like, because you know how people say, oh, if you find something you love, you'll never have to work a day in your life. No,
Right.
you're still working.
Yeah.
You you're just doing it for, like you like to do it. But like what happens when you get burnt out on that thing you like to do? Because now
It's true.
you're expected to make money off of it. I don't want to ever
Mhm.
become that guy. I just want to be a
Yeah.
guy who I feel like I'm going to write a story about what if the president was a WWE wrestler. I feel like just having a zany idea and talking with my friends and making something cool is
Yeah.
better than having to live off of it. If that makes any
Right.
sense.
Yeah. No, no, that's total. I'm definitely feeling that. Especially me doing this stuff, it's been interesting, like trying to balance a regular job doing this, and then like it's tough. Yeah, so I understand that. But yeah, I guess I was just curious as to where your head was at with this, long term, if you were going to try to make it a long term, or is this more of a hobby that you would like to make money off of? Where do you fit in that spectrum? And it's going to change too, like obviously you're passionate, you're knowledgeable, you know a lot about the industry, you've done your due diligence, you've got skin in the game. And I'm just excited to see what your final product. So I'm invested. I'm gonna hopefully get it a signed copy, I hope. But yeah, I'm definitely down, and I'm gonna be a cheerleader for you. To whenever your Kickstarter launches, I'll be right there, cheering you along. And actually, it's funny that you say that. I've been using ChatGPT, and don't hate just yet, but I've actually been messing around with a a a social worker. It started off as just me messing around with a social worker as a superhero. Um, just as a concept, I was like, that would be kind of funny, or not funny, but like different. Like
Mhm.
a social worker that has basically superpowers. So basically, the idea was that um, this this social worker basically has such powerful emotions, from like they like empathy, like remember the kid from Captain Planet, the one that was
Oh, heart.
Heart. I was thinking, okay, how could we make that character kind of cool? So I was thinking, instead of like being at Heart, it would be like, okay, this social worker has so much basically they feel trauma, they feel all the pain of the world, and then they channel that into like a superpower of some kind. I don't know, it was just an idea. I messed around with it in ChatGPT, and I actually have started creating a little bit of I originally it was a short, like a short novel, but now it's like this could be a graphic novel. So I don't know, that's just something that I'm kind of messing around with, but I'm not a creative person at all in that sense. So, um, but yeah, I would like to maybe pick your brain a little bit more down the road on that project. Sorry about the dogs.
It's fine. It's
Oh man.
when you actually like design that image in the millennial veterans group, and you were like, we should get a look at this. I actually
Yeah.
like I actually started penning out some ideas. What
Okay.
like what I would if I was drawing or if I was creating it, like where I would go with it. It would be like a superhero like an action comedy
Okay.
about a social worker who has fire powers, but um it's more like nobody respects him, but he
Okay.
he cares about helping people, but like he no one takes him seriously. Like he lives in New York, so he rides a bike to work.
Yeah.
Um, like one day a meteor shower comes and he's in the building. He gets hit with a meteor shot, like one of the meteors. It gives him firepower, and
Nice.
so that the villains also get hit with meteors too. So they don't
Okay.
respect him because he don't really know how to use his powers completely. So
Yes.
he might try to use like throw a fireball at somebody, but it actually like burns a hot dog stand or something like that. But His
Oh
power
man.
is his ability to care and understand that people are going through bad things.
Yeah. That's even better, man. I should have just I mean, I should have collaborated with you a long time ago. But yeah, man, we're gonna have to work on this now. On a side project. But yeah, that's pretty cool. So that was the literal fire social worker, like the social worker that can spit fire out of his hands, basically, is what you envisioned. I like
Hmm.
that. That's cool. So then I could make myself into a comic book character.
Yeah,
Oh man, which
Dean
is
Cain
crazy to
has
think
a comic,
about.
and he is his own main character.
Oh, okay.
It's
Yeah,
called
that's
Dean
cool.
Cain, American Hero.
Nice. Okay. All right. Well, that was I mean, I was kind of just messing around, but that would be kind of a fun thing to play around with. But yeah, well, we've I think we've fleshed out a little bit about your business project, your plans. It sounds like you do have a trajectory there. Um, as far as like your money that you have, like with your budget, let's say, did we talk a little bit about tracking your food expenses and things like that, or have you looked into that at all?
Um, we kind of did, um, but not by much, because we got a bad diagnosis for my kids.
Oh, okay.
They
Wow.
had developed some kind of skin issue. Like no
Oh,
doctor knew what it was.
wow.
They looked at them and they're like, we've never seen this before. Um, and we had to go to like a natural health doctor, like a holistic one, because like no other doctor could figure it out,
Hmm.
especially for my son. So we found out that he now has a dairy allergy. So now we can't
Wow.
have any milk in the house. We can't have any cheese. We can't,
Wow.
but he really likes those things. So
Uh,
now we have to do like the vegan stuff, and the vegan stuff,
mhm.
like my other daughter already it has celiac disease.
Yeah.
So now we don't have any like gluten products in the house. So
Oh,
everything that, is gluten free is way more expensive, and
yep.
now everything that's dairy free is also way more expensive. So that
Wow.
just blew the budget like
Yeah.
completely.
Okay. So how much would you estimate that's going to increase your food budget? Do you think? I mean, it's going to vary probably a little bit, but like, have you noticed an impact already?
Um, yes, because he can't even have sugar
Oh, wow.
because they said he also has candida. So
Okay. Wow.
it makes his eczema flare up when he has
Oh,
sugar,
okay.
and so now we can't even like we have to make everything from scratch now.
Yeah. Wow. And which, I mean, in some ways that's cheaper, but then other ways, like you said, the materials are more expensive,
Mhm.
inherently. So yeah, that's definitely a new, wrinkle in your budget, which happens, um so how have you guys kind of managed that extra influx of expense, or have you just kind of like winged it for so far?
We've been winging it only because we didn't know. We didn't really know what he would actually like to eat, and then
Yeah.
what is actually good. Like because he can't have fruit, so we can't have fruit in the house anymore.
Yeah.
Um, like there's like when you have candida, there's a lot of things that you can't have. Like he can't have corn, he can't have
Oh,
fruits, um, he can't have like any kind of trace of any kind of sugar, whether it's a natural sugar or not. It just can't be in the house. So that limits us to basically meat, and meat costs are kind of through the roof still. I mean,
yeah.
we even go to like a local farmer to get our like chicken and beef, but even still, like that's not that much cheaper than than going to Walmart.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, I would encourage you to really start, this next week, start tracking your food budget, because you're going to want a good estimate, monthly estimate. And like you said, this is a new development. So it would be a good time to start tracking those new expenses so you can start building out a future budget, future spending plan.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm gonna push you, encourage you to start tracking your expenses this week, and then we're going to touch base. I might ask you on the Facebook page to kind of just give me a general number, like for this week, maybe on a week from today. You can post, or I can ask you to post or whatever, but just like say, okay, this is how much we spend on groceries this week, and then we can kind of like make a general, okay, if this is 1 week worth of groceries, and a month would be X amount. But obviously we'd still want to track the whole month, if you can, um, because I mean, like I said, this is a new thing, and you want to have that awareness of, okay, how much money is our food budget, or at least estimate, a good estimate, because a lot of times if you don't have a good number, then you're just at the mercy of your stomach, because a
Hmm.
lot of times people will buy groceries when they're hungry, and they don't have a strategy for their food budget. So but a lot of people can save a lot of money on their food budget if they are strategic about it. So yeah, I would actually encourage you to do that, to track just your food. We'll start with that. Track your food budget for the next week. See how much you spend, um, and then we can kind of regroup from that with that information. And I mean, in general, I would also say, like, you could probably go ahead and just track all your expenses if you wanted to, because that's just a good habit. Try it for a week. Um, and then you might be surprised in a good way or in a bad way that, okay, we spent more money on this category than I thought we would. And it's just kind of an accountability practice to track your expenses, and then actually look at them, together as a couple, or as a family, because a lot of times, you might, if especially if you're tracking the finances and maybe your wife isn't as involved, or vice versa. There are times where you guys aren't always on the same page, and so by having these kind of like, um I just recently heard about, they're called money dates, and I haven't done this yet either, but it's just like uh it's meant to be a couples, bonding moment, bonding time, where you talk about money, but in a in a friendly environment, we'll say. Like you're on a date, but like, the whole goal is to really have a substantive discussion about your finances together. So with all the different couples having problems with their finances, like, the divorce rate being so high over finances, it really helps to be on the same page. So that's one thing I would try to encourage you guys to have, is a money date. Granted, with 5 kids, that's going to be challenging.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, but like, even if it's just like a 5 or 10 minute chat, like, hey, we spent 400 on this week, and just kind of a check-in. I don't know how do you guys manage your finances, or who's the who's the one with the manages the money right now? Is it kind of a mutual thing, or who's usually in charge?
We both do, but I
Okay.
just know when she spends money because I have it set so that Navy Federal sends me like a thing. It's like, oh, you spent this at this place.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good. I mean, that's as long as you guys are communicating and on the same page, that's huge for a lot of couples. They're not always on the same page, or some couples have just different perspectives on how money should be spent, and that's where a lot of the friction comes from. It's like, well, you know, we should spend more on this versus this, but as long as you guys are cooperating and everything seems to be okay, then maybe you guys don't need a money date. Um but I'm going to try it at some point with me and my wife. We're going to try a money date. um but yeah, okay. All right, so that's your one of your homework assignments, is to come up with your food budget for the week. um were there any I guess any other financial surprises that happened over the last couple of weeks, or any unexpected expenses or anything?
Just that, just knowing that, and the holistic doctor was like $350 and
Oh
fifty
wow.
dollars because
Ooh.
like
Tricare
they
doesn't
had to
cover
get the
that.
parasites out of his gut first, and then
Oh, okay.
but they don't do antibiotics because an antibiotic, I mean, an antifungal antibiotic, what they do is they just go in and they kill everything in there. So whether it's good bacteria or bad bacteria, it just dies.
Yeah.
So what they did is they put him on like a detox thing, and it was like 300 and something dollars because also
Mm,
my daughters had something wrong with their skin, but nobody knew what was wrong with it.
yeah.
So he was like, it looks like it could be this. So that was an additional like 50 something dollars as
Wow.
well.
Man.
But it actually worked though. Whatever he gave them, like
Okay.
it worked. They just hated the
Nice.
taste of it, but
Yeah.
it cleared
Nice.
them up in like 4 days.
Okay. Nice.
But that was
All right.
literally like the only unexpected thing.
I mean, yeah, that's a
It
pretty
shouldn't
big
be that bad going forward,
yeah.
because we know what he's actually gonna need, and they actually gave him a 60-day like comeback time.
Okay.
So we should pretty much be able to do better. And then I found that I could buy a lot of the milk because he can't use like dairy stuff, but he can do almond milk. So I
Mhm.
found that I could just get like cartons, like a whole case that you can't buy in Walmart or Sam's Club. I found that you get a whole case of it for cheaper than the buying individuals at Walmart. So on
Okay.
Amazon, so I was able
Yeah.
to get that shipped in.
Nice.
So that
And
was a
that's
savings right there too. So
yeah. So that's already good that you're looking at different ways to lower costs. I mean, this is a new thing, a new expense for you guys. So you guys are already starting to be smart about it. So I definitely acknowledge that, and I'm glad that you're trying to make it work, and that's your new baseline, your new normal. So um, okay, well, so let's just recap a little bit. Um, Homework is to actually bump up the car payment to 200
mhm.
a paycheck. Um, the 125, I guess just find some place to park it for now, and then we can work on. I can start sending you some links for different banks we could maybe start looking into. But yeah, just find a place for it, make it automatic, just make it. You can just do a regular savings account for now, but I just want you to get into that habit of making it that automatic expense or automatic payment.
Okay.
And then I mean uh, the comic, I guess, we'll that'll be, that's a slow burn. We're gonna work on that a little bit, as time goes on. But it sounds like that's kind of at a little bit of a standstill right now until maybe until you get that manager, campaign manager.
Mhm.
Yeah. So all right. And then I did want to touch base or really quick ask you about if you're still interested in social work. Is that something that you're kind of thinking about still, or?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
That's still like just like the move to Alaska plan. It's still
Yeah.
the move. I still want to do mental health counseling.
Okay.
I had a very interesting conversation with. I mailed something to my wife yesterday because she forgot it here, and
Yeah.
the lady was just telling me about like how that people need mental health counselors. Like her brother was in Iraq during the invasion, and people died in his arms and stuff, like his battle
Wow.
buddies and things like that. And so
Yeah.
he's messed up. Her nephew just committed suicide in
Oh.
Japan. He's a Marine.
Wow.
Uh, and she was like, you would never think, like, he had a good life, a good wife, nice kids. But
Mm-hmm.
she said you never know what people are going through. And
Yeah.
she was saying that her son, well, she has 2 sons, and that, she's always worried about them every day because one of them's always complaining about something, and the other one he's forward deployed with some Marines right now because he's in the Navy.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, well, I was telling her about how like there's just a shortage of mental health providers on military posts. And she was
Mm-hmm.
like, well, you know, that's a good thing that you would like to do that because, you know, our service members need it.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that's. I mean, so you're still interested in it? You're still planning on maybe going down that road?
Oh yeah. That's
Okay.
like if I hadn't had like my own mini breakdown, then I would have never like thought, man, this is what
Yeah.
people actually need because this doesn't
Yeah.
feel good.
Yeah. Okay. So it has a personal impact for you. That's usually where people get really passionate about it, and then it sounds like yeah, you're going to be uh, a great social worker. So all right. Well, I'm going to keep holding you to the fire on that, and we're going to keep pushing with that. Did you have
That's had a
any?
question though
What's that?
about that. So if let's say that I get a master's in you know, literally mental health counseling.
Yeah.
Now, do I have to can I like, you know how every field has a, you know, a wide variety of things you can do with it.
Yeah.
So would I have to get a degree in social work to be a social worker, or could I use the degree to get a job as a social worker and be
Well,
a
yeah.
mental
You
health counselor?
you would have to get a social work degree to become a social or to be called a social worker. Now, if you were to get like a master's in counseling, then you would be that you're kind of like limited as a like they call them LPC, licensed professional counselor, I think. Um, but yeah, the social work angle is just more broad, and you can do therapy as a social worker, but then you can do other things. Whereas you can't be called a social worker um, as a counselor, if that makes sense. Um, so yeah, you would have to get a social work degree to call yourself a social worker. Yeah.
Okay. So how broad is that field of social work?
Whew, man, I'm learning more and more every day. It's like a whole different so I'm recently certified in financial social work, and that's a whole new thing. It's not new, but it's like a lot of social workers aren't even aware of it. Um, but yeah, I mean, there's so many different avenues that you can go down. So we could probably have a whole stream on that. But yeah, yeah, there's a lot of different avenues to go down. And yeah, I mean, it really just depends on what you're interested in doing with it. So we could probably do yeah a whole stream on that. But but yeah, well, did you have any other concerns or any questions for me at this
No,
time?
that was it. I think we should definitely do like a stream about social work and the different avenues because that, you know, like
Yeah.
I had no idea it was that that broad.
Oh man, yeah, it's huge. And I'm actually like my fire social worker show is going to really start to focus more on social work and especially the financial social work. But like I've got a few different social workers that I'm going to start interviewing. So yeah, I mean, I would definitely be willing to maybe have a couple social workers on the stream with us, and we could just talk about different things in social work. So yeah, that'd be awesome. I'd be definitely down to do that.
That sounds good.
Hmm. All right. Well, I think we got a lot covered today. We definitely we did talk a lot about the comic, but it's just something I'm interested in, and I'm just curious to learn more about. And obviously, after talking to you, it's clear that you know what you're talking about. You've done your due diligence, and this isn't just like a passing fancy thing. This is something that you're serious and passionate about. So I definitely respect that. um but yeah, that's we're gonna kind of see how the next stream is gonna be. We're gonna work on our schedules. You're gonna be starting college soon, so we're gonna kind of play it by ear as far as our next stream. But I'm gonna give you homework, and I'm gonna hold you accountable. I'm gonna post on the fire social worker page, and we're gonna keep you engaged. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, Reid, I really appreciate you once again jumping on the stream, putting yourself out there. This is not everyone is willing to do this, so I really appreciate you jumping on the stream and being vulnerable with us and sharing your story. So yeah, that's pretty much all I got for today. Please join me on the next stream, and I will catch you guys later.
See ya.
All right, take care.